Andersen Acres. I'm Leanne, and if you're new here, welcome. So we're here today because we are going to start adding basically a new type of video to the channel. And basically what we're going to start doing is every Friday, I'm going to go live, and there's going to be a different theme for each week of the month. The first Friday of the month, we are going to have a farm talk and a Q&A. And I have some questions that were already submitted, and if you are in the chat, you can drop a comment and I will see if I can respond. Maybe I can't, maybe I can. We'll see. We will see if I can respond. We'll see what happens, that kind of thing. So I do have questions, and you can submit questions to me in advance, or you can just tune in for the live. So how is this going to work? How do I choose the questions is the question I'm going to get first. So when I get questions from viewers, whether it's here or on Facebook or somewhere else, they fall into a few different categories. The first one is things that are really controversial, and I say this for my Farm Fights podcast. So I talk about things like Merrick's disease, or I'm going to talk about raw milk, or things like that in the Farm Fights controversies podcast. So I won't be talking about those things here. Then there are questions that aren't necessarily controversial, but they take like 10 minutes or so to answer. Those I tend to reserve for my weekly updates, which come out on Saturdays. Then the third type of question is the question we're going to answer here. These are ones that take, a couple minutes to answer, but they're not quick fires. They're not a quick yes, no, they're nothing like that. So when I select questions here, not on the chat, I have the chat up here, but for the chat, I will answer almost any of the types of questions, but for the questions I pre-select, it's questions that aren't going to take 10 minutes per question to answer. And they are questions that are not super quick fire. Quick fire ones I tend to answer in my daily vlog because they're one word or one sentence answers. So it's really, those ones are too easy to answer for something like this. Though if you do have a question, drop it in the chat and I will see if I can get to it. If I can't get to it, it may show up next time, or it may show up in a farm vlog or something like that. So in addition to the Q&A, this is also going to be the first Friday of the month is where I share things like the monthly project we want to complete, because all farms have projects you want to complete. All of them. Okay, absolutely all farms have projects that we are hoping to get to. Do we always get to them? No. we try. Okay, so anyone who has a hobby farm or homestead will know that you have 1,000 projects on your list and half of them don't get done. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to pick the one project that I'm hoping we actually get to, because that project is the one that we think is the most important to us. So hopefully we get to that one project. We have 1,000 projects around the farm that we want to do, but some months are less conducive to certain types of projects. So we will try to get to the project that I mentioned. And if we get extra stuff done, good for us. So that is basically how that part works. I'm also going to talk about the challenges we expect to face in that coming month. So how that works is there are certain times of the year where you can expect certain types of challenges to pop up. Okay, it's just the way it is. And I will outline what we're expecting. And then throughout the month, I guarantee there's a whole bunch of challenges we didn't see coming. It's just the way it is, especially this time of year with Mother Nature. So you can see behind me, we have some melted and some snow back there. So we have in the back, there's a whole bunch of snow, but right behind me, there's a bunch of grass. We're kind of at that influx time where it's kind of bonkers, and we do not really have a handle on the weather yet. We're not quite sure where it's going. It's supposed to warm up, but then it doesn't, and that kind of thing. So that all factors into the types of challenges you think you might experience. So let's get to it. First of all, the monthly project we want to complete. If you've been watching my daily farm vlogs, you will know that Shadowfax has been escaping. Okay, he's that way. He's on the other side of the camera in his pen right now, staring at me. But yeah, he's staring at me because he's wondering why I won't let him out. And I won't let him out because there's like sheets of ice all over here. I don't want him running around on ice because he's a hoofed animal. He could break a leg. But he doesn't understand that. He wants to come out, so he's going to stare at me. But if you've been following along with the farm vlogs, you know that he's been escaping out that back fence. And it's because it was a cheap wire fence. It's kind of garbage wire anyway. And that kind of wire really wasn't meant for what it's there for. And we've got like pieces of chain link. And it was just a temporary, we got to get something up to keep him in. And then we just didn't replace it. So our project goal for February, it's not February, it's April. I don't even know what month I'm in. This is my problem. Doesn't matter. But so our goal for April is to get that fencing up. And the way we're doing that is we are building panels that are 8 feet long by 3 feet high. And before someone says you need 4 feet for Shadowfax, no, we don't. We only need 3 feet. He is a small guy and he can't jump. And before someone comes in, he's a mini horse. Of course he can jump. No, he can't. He has an old stifle injury. So he can't get that kind of oomph to get over a 3-foot fence. I'm not sure he could get over a 2-foot fence, to be honest. That one back leg, that stifle injury, he can run around, he can have a great time, he can prance, he can jump around, but he can't clear things, so he can't get very high. I'm getting a whole bunch of things happening on my phone. But, so he can't escape. He can't escape over a 3-foot fence. But they're basically 8 feet long, okay? They are 8 feet long, and they're 3 feet tall. And essentially, they are made of wire with 2x4s. Okay, they're 2x4s. And we put 1x2s on top of the wire. So you have the 2x4, you put the wire on the 2x4, and then you put the 1x2s on to hold the wire in place. Because if you just staple the wire to the 2x4, what ends up happening is it's not going to stay, because Shadowfax is a heavy guy. Okay, he's a little horse. He's a little pony. He's only 225 pounds, but that's enough to push wire off of a board. So basically what we do is we secure it with another board. So that's how we're building that fence. We need to make 12 panels, and we have most of the panels made. The problem is there's still so much snow there that actually putting them up is a problem right now. So we are hoping to have that done by the end of April. That's our April project. Our April challenges. What do we think we are going to have a problem with when it comes to our April challenges? Well, question. So the April challenges are April itself. Where we live, you can see we got snow, we got grass, we got all kinds of nonsense. And this is the month where we are going to have blizzards, which we've already had 2, and it's only the 4th of April. We've already had 2. And we are going to get a bunch of rain, and we're going to flood. We live in a floodplain. That's just foregone conclusion. So our challenges in April are going to end up being the weather. It is going to be a whole bunch of snow, and then that snow is going to melt rapidly because it will all of a sudden warm up. Okay, so that is what our challenges are going to be, and that's one of the reasons that fence isn't done yet, because it just keeps snowing. So for April, the goal is get those fences up, and hopefully the snow and the weather cooperates and we can actually come up, because it's really annoying when it just keeps snowing and then all that snow turns to water and you flood. So we're lucky in that we are a little bit higher than you might expect. Because we're a little bit higher than you might expect, most of the water runs off us, but that doesn't really save us that much. So we end up flooded anyway. So those are our mostly April challenges. Now there's a turkey over there going absolutely bonkers. So mostly that's what we're going to be facing, is flooding. The weather and a lot of flooding. Overland flooding in our case. So for a lot of people, they don't get the overland flooding. In ours, we do. We're in a floodplain. We're next to a swamp. We're next to a bog, basically. And we are going to overland flood, hopefully not into the yard, but still, it sucks. So let's get to the questions that I had pre-submitted to me this week. So the first question someone asked is, what animals do you raise at Andersen Acres and why did you choose them? Okay, so let's go through what we have. We have Rex rabbits, and our Rexes are primarily my son's. So he raises the Rexes and he sells the babies, and it's mostly his project. It's his own, the Rexes are his own project, his own idea. He decides what he's breeding, who he's breeding to who. It's his own project, and he sells the babies and all kinds of stuff like that. He has a great deal of fun doing it. But the Rexes are entirely his project. I have Holland Lops. Why do I have Holland Lops? I breed them for show. My Holland Lops are show quality. Some of them go for pet quality because every once in a while I have one that's not quite show quality. But I have the Holland Lops for that. Those are the only two breeds of rabbit we have. We do have a Flemish Giant, but he is a pet. And when it comes to the birds, we have chickens, including silkies. Our silkies are bred for the show. For show, we show our silkies. And we have your standard layers, which are bred for eggs. We need their eggs to feed our family. And we have ducks. And for the ducks, we mostly hatch their eggs and sell the babies as a form of income. And we do eat some of their eggs. By the way, duck eggs, fantastic for baking. People should bake with duck eggs more often. So we do use the duck eggs and we sell the ducklings. We also have one turkey. We only have one turkey. We did have two, but one unfortunately passed away. So we have one turkey. We are going to get some more turkeys. The turkeys are entirely for fun. We have blue slate turkeys, and we just happen to really like them, especially the turkey we have blue. He's the nicest guy on the planet, and he is just a pet. Okay, he's not for the dinner table or anything like that. Blue is a pet. And we also have Cortunix quail. Again, we raise them for eggs, and I do hatch their babies. Also, I mean, we replenish our own quail flock with the babies, but we also sell the babies. But we have them for eggs because quail eggs are quite the delicacy. We really enjoy the quail eggs. So we have them. When it comes to the other animals that are not rabbits and not birds, we have goats. Right now, we only have the one goat. We are going to get a few more. Why do we have one goat? Well, because our other goat died. The reason we only have one left is because she was elderly and she passed away. So we are looking to get a friend for little Arwen. Arwen doesn't have a purpose. She's a pet. But I do want to get back into breeding goats. It's been a while since we had babies, but I would like to get back into that, which means I need to find a gentleman for Arwen. And she is a purebred fainting goat. So if we find a gentleman for her, she will probably be quite happy with that. And then, of course, we have a big old Shadowfax. Shadowfax is our mini horse. He is the escape artist. And he's a naughty little guy, and we adore him. Does he have an actual purpose on the farm? To make us laugh. We have him because my son wanted a mini horse since the time he was small. He was 2 or 3 years old when he first said he wanted to get a little white mini horse and name it Shadowfax. So we got Shadowfax, a little white mini horse. I know he's not actually white. Technically, he's a Palomino Pinto. I know he doesn't look like a Palomino Pinto. He looks like a little white pony, but he is a Palomino Pinto. So we got that going for us. So that was the first question that I picked. The second one is the most challenging animal to care for and why. Okay. The most challenging animal to care for is going to be Shadowfax. Not because he's an especially difficult pony. He's a really good guy. Okay. Nice horse. Really easy to handle. But horses, even mini ones, are more problematic than a lot of farm animals. Like chickens, you just kind of put them in your backyard and they eat and you pick up their eggs and ta-da, you're good to go. Mini horses are not that different than from their larger counterparts. They are basically always looking for a way to hurt themselves. Their vet care is more expensive. You have to do things like have their teeth floated and you have to have them vaccinated. And there's a whole lot of things that go into a mini horse. You got to have their feet clipped constantly because they don't stop growing. There are so many things that go into a mini horse that we absolutely love Shadowfax. Don't get me wrong. We don't regret him at all. We absolutely adore him. But he is probably the most difficult animal to look after. The rabbits are easy. The birds are easy. The goat, she's easy. Goats are not difficult. I don't find it difficult to look after goats. They have fewer health problems than horses. Horses, they will look for a way to have a health problem. Okay? They will look for a way to hurt themselves. They will look for a way to colic in the middle of winter. They're always looking for a way to be crazy. So horses are probably the most challenging one to care for on the farm. And we only have the one mini horse. So it's not overly challenging because there's only one of him. But if I had to pick one animal on the farm that was the most difficult to care for, it would definitely be Shadowfax, the miniature horse. The next question was, how do you deal with escape artists? Poorly. If you have watched very many of my videos, you'll notice we always have somebody escaping. So right now we have Trunk, the Rex rabbit, who escaped from her pen and went and had babies under the barn. So even if we could catch her, which is a trick in itself, we can't take her away from those babies or they'll die. And we can't reach the babies because they're right in the middle of the barn and we can't get to them. So how do we deal with escaping animals? Very badly. They kind of escape and we go, oh. Guess he's out again. I can't even tell you how many times Shadowfax has escaped. Badly. Nobody's ever run away. So we've never had to chase anyone down. But yeah, we're very bad at containing animals. Like right now, there's a goat who's supposed to be in the pen and she's just wandering over to see the rabbits. We don't even try anymore. Let's be honest. We don't even try. Like, as long as you're in the yard, I don't care. So how do we deal with escaping animals? Badly. The fourth question was, what was our most tragic loss on the farm? So we've had a hobby farm and a homestead for a while now, quite a while. And the longer you have had a hobby farm or a homestead, the longer you end up with, the more animals you have that end up passing away. Some of them are like chickens who don't live very long sometimes, depending on the breed. And sometimes you will have someone like a goat. Hello, Shadowfax. He's just over there making noise. But the saddest loss on the farm would have to be our little Gandalf. Gandalf was a pygmy goat. You will not see any videos of him because we were not filming. We weren't. Hi, sweetie. Hi. Yes, I got Bowser walking under me, one of our barn cats. Hi, sweetie pea. Are you a good sweetie pea? Aw, come here. Oh, that's Bowser. Yeah, it's just a Bowser. Little Bowser. She doesn't like me. She's leaving. She's like, why are you touching me? That's so dumb. She doesn't like being touched that much. So, saddest loss on the farm. Gandalf, little tiny pygmy goat. He was very small. Okay, you think pygmy goat and you already think small. He was even smaller than that. We knew when we got him that he was not long for this world. He had CHF, basically the goat version of CHF, chronic heart failure, and we knew that. So we knew when we took him in that we wouldn't have him forever. We had him about a year, and he was such a sweet little guy. He wasn't very old. He was only 2.5, I guess, when he passed, and we had only had him about a year. And he was absolutely sweet as pie. He was the best little goat in the world. And we grew so attached to him, even though we knew he was going to pass because he had a chronic condition. And we did the best we could, and the vets did the best they could, but we knew. And we got way too attached. We couldn't help it. He was just too sweet. And when he passed, it was devastating. Tristan had gone out, and he's like, oh no, Mom. He brought Gandalf in, and Gandalf was in his arms. Gandalf was small. Like, I could hold Gandalf in my arms easily. He never grew very big. And it was tragic because he was so little, and he died in our mudroom in our arms. And that remains the most tragic death on the farm. And it was one we knew was going to happen because we took him in knowing, absolutely knowing, that he was not going to make it. So there was nothing we could do. There was nothing we could do, and he was going to die, and it hurt. And I think right now, the only death that might hurt a little more than that might be Shadowfax. Or Tequila. One of the Great Pyrenees is Tequila. So Gandalf was hard. They're all hard, let's be honest, but every once in a while, one will hit you harder than others. And for us, it was Gandalf. All right, the fifth question. Biggest success story on the farm. Shadowfax. Hands down. When we got Shadowfax, I've told this story a few times, but when we got Shadowfax, he was terrified. He was terrified of women. He was terrified of loud sounds. He was terrified of nylon halters and lead ropes. He was terrified of other horses. He was terrified of anything that moved. He hated women. He was very, very skinny. His hooves were horrific. He was just lousy. He was covered in lice. It was bad. It was bad. And the greatest success story was turning him around. And we did. We turned that guy around. It took a lot of work. The first 6 months were dicey. Like the farrier was out every 3 weeks, helping to trim back his feet because he couldn't stand properly. The vet was out once a month. He had to have multiple lice treatments. He was covered in mites. He had all kinds of internal parasites. It was not good. Okay, it was not good. So he was in bad shape when we got him. And our biggest success story is turning him into the sweet little pea he is today. We love him. We love that guy. So he's our greatest success story. We've had other good success stories, but Shadowfax stands out. Question 6 was, what do you wish you'd known before starting a hobby farm? I wish I'd known exactly how much money it would eat up. You think you know? And I don't begrudge any of it. I do not begrudge any of it. I love each one of them. I will spend my last dollar on making them happy. But it would have been nice to know that it was going to be so expensive. And I'm not talking about the buying of the animals. The buying of the animals is the cheap part. I am talking about the building of the shelters and the building of the fences and the buying of the feed and all of the vet care and all of that fantastic stuff that goes in to running a hobby farm. Yes, Bowser. Bowser doesn't want me to pick her up, but she wants to be near me. Okay, I won't pick you up. Yeah, meow. So, yeah, I wish I'd known how much it was going to cost. I wouldn't have not done it. I still would have started a hobby farm. I just would have budgeted better at the beginning. Now, I darn well know how much it's going to cost me. I know how much it costs to feed 20 chickens for 2 weeks. So, yeah. And it adds up. It adds up. Let's be honest. It adds up. So the next question is, number 7 was, how do you balance farm life with everything else, like family and filming? And the answer is, I don't leave the farm. I'm always here. I work from home. I hang out all day with these guys. I spend most of my day cleaning pens and picking up eggs and checking on baby bunnies and attending to the baby chicks and the hatching eggs and all of that stuff. So I don't have too much to balance because I'm here all of the time. Okay. So when I'm filming, wandering around the farm, that's literally what I'm doing all day. And that's primarily what I do. So, like, how do I make money? Well, I sell chicks and I sell baby bunnies and I sell my baking and I sell canned goods and I sell all that stuff. So crops and all that kind of thing. So I don't leave the farm. So because I don't leave the farm, I don't have to find too much of a balance. If you do have a job away from home, then it can be more difficult to find that balance because it takes a lot of time. Okay? A lot of time out of your day to look after, especially as many animals as we have. And we're not done adding to the animals. We just kind of slowed down as we were moving from one location to the other so that we wouldn't have as many animals to move, because it is difficult to move large amounts of animals. But basically, it is harder the more animals you have to find that balance. And we do this as a family. So both of my sons are involved, and my mom loves to come out and see the animals. It's basically her primary destination when she wants to go somewhere is our place. And my dad loves the animals, and it's really a family affair. It's not just me. So because it's a family affair, it's easier to find that balance because we're all spending a lot of time together anyway, as we do this. Next question. Most useful tools on the farm. So I could say a lot of things. I could say things like a good rake or a good stall fork, or I could say all of that. But honestly, the best tool I have on the farm is a grabber. It's literally for disabled people for grabbing things that you can't reach. And I use it for grabbing eggs in weird locations, especially from the quail, because they lay in like the very corners of their pen where it's really difficult to reach. So the most useful tool on the farm is literally my grabber that I use for grabbing quail eggs, because it saves me so much time and effort. And sometimes it saves me having to lift the coop up so that I can grab eggs out of the weird corners that they like to lay in. So definitely my little egg grabber. That is what the most useful tool on the farm is. What animal has the biggest personality was the next question that someone asked. That is going to be tequila, the Great Pyrenees. Yes, there's a whole bunch of ducks and a turkey going crazy right now over there. But tequila has the biggest personality. Tequila, and it can be a problem, I'm not going to lie. But tequila, everything matters to tequila. Whether she is guarding the goat, whether she is patrolling the property, whether she's in the house wanting a snack, her personality is huge. Okay? She is everywhere all of the time. So definitely tequila. Definitely tequila has the biggest personality on the farm. Question 10 was, if you had to add a new animal, what and why? Well, we do have plans to add more animals. We're adding more turkeys, but since we already have turkey, that doesn't really answer that question. A new animal. Probably the next new animal we're going to add is sheep. Why? I want the wool. Absolutely want their wool. I want to have sheep so that I can shear them in the spring and do stuff with their wool. I really like to knit, and I love to spin my own wool, and I love the carding process. I know a lot of people don't like carding. I like carding. So yes, I enjoy doing the carding and the spinning and the knitting. So I'd really like to be able to do that with my own wool instead of buying someone else's wool. So definitely we're going to add sheep. Other animals we might add, I'm probably going to get a pig. Why? Just one pig. Why? We have a lot of forest, and they're really good for kind of rooting up that forest and kind of keeping it healthy, but I only want one. First, I have to put a perimeter fence around the entire property because pigs do tend to wander. But a pig is definitely on the list. And I kind of want peacocks, but they're not great free rangers. They tend to wander and take off on you. So I don't know about peacocks, but definitely we're adding sheep probably sometime this year, to be honest. Question 11. What is the first thing that's happened on the farm? It's a little thing, but the thing that made us laugh the most was our rooster Sauron, our black rooster, was on top of the quail coop, and he let out this huge crow, but he crowed so loudly that he fell backward and tumbled off the coop. And it was hilarious at the time. I mean, he wasn't hurt. He's fine. He's fine. He's still popping around. This was he fell into a snowbank. So this was probably in March, I guess, beginning of March. So it had us chuckling. Was it the funniest thing? Maybe not, but that's the thing that comes immediately to mind. That happened relatively recently. So that was pretty darn funny. Other things that were pretty funny is probably Shadowfax stalking me for cookies when I didn't know he was there. I had no idea he was out of the pen, and he was stalking me for cookies and finally came up and bit me in the butt. So that was pretty funny. I wish I had that one on camera, but I didn't even know he was there. How was I going to film him? So that was pretty funny. But a lot of funny things happen on the farm, and for some reason I'm just having trouble recalling most of them, but we laugh a lot. There's a lot of funny things that are going on the farm. All right, next question. Between goats and ducks, who causes more trouble? Okay, so this is going to depend on your goat, because we have Arwen right now, and she is the sweetest, most darling little goat on the planet. She doesn't cause trouble. A lot of goats do, but she doesn't. She is the sweetest, gentlest little thing you've ever seen. So she's not a problem. Our ducks, however, we have 6 ducks. And they're not small ducks, they're cayugas. So they're fairly weighty ducks. And they are chaos incarnate. Every time you hear something crash, it's the ducks. Okay, if you hear a crash from the shed, it's the ducks knocking over a shelf. If there's a bunch of clatter in the garage, I promise you, it's the ducks getting up on the tailgate of the truck in there and pushing everything off. So for us, the ducks are way more chaotic because Arwen is such a little doll. Hi, Jake. I have another cat. Hi, sweetie. Yes, good kitty. And Bowser's over there. Bowser's just sitting over there. But yeah, so for us, it's the ducks. However, goats, most of them are not Arwen. They are absolute nonsense. So for a lot of people, I would have to say that the answer would be the goats, because goats are always jumping on top of something or chewing on something they're not supposed to have, or they're tripping you because they want a snack. They're all over you. Goats are nonsense, and I love them for it. However, for us, it's definitely the ducks. The ducks are 100% more chaotic than our little Arwen. Arwen is a sweetie. Will that answer change as we add more goats to the group? Yeah, probably. I would venture yes. So, yeah. Next question. Would you rather clean stalls or preserve 100 jars of jam? Okay, I know where this one is coming from. I 100% know where this question is coming from. And it's because, hi, there's Jake. Jakey Poo. Hi, sweetheart. That's my Jake. Perfect kitties. Yes, perfect kitties. But yes, I know where that question is coming from. It's because in the fall, when I was canning a bunch of jam and I was filming it, I was complaining that there was way too much jam and I was getting really, really sick of having to put it in the jars and then canning the jars and putting them in the pressure can, blah, 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 blah. I was really annoyed. And it sounded like I don't like canning. I don't hate canning. I enjoy canning. However, I have my limit. So if I'm sitting there and I'm processing 50 jars of jam, I'm going to get mad. I don't mind doing 10, 12, batch or two, and I don't mind. But there is a limit for me. I don't love canning that much. I enjoy it. I don't love it that much. So this particular question of would I rather clean stalls or preserve 100 jars of jam? That 100 is what gets me. 100 jars of jam is a lot of jam, and I don't love canning that much. I literally would rather muck out the duck pen than can 100 jars of jam. Would I can 100 jars of jam to feed my family? Sure. Of course I would. Do I enjoy doing that many? No. I like canning at the beginning for a little while. By the time you're on batch 50, you're like, okay, whose stupid idea was this? Probably mine, because I have plenty of stupid ideas that I get myself into. But the answer to, would you rather muck out stalls or can 100 jars of jam? Stalls. Every single time. Every single time. I'd rather muck the duck poop, which is probably the smelliest poop you'll ever smell, than can that many jars. It's just, no. So the next question I had on my list is, what's harder, baking the perfect loaf of bread or catching an escaped mini horse? This one is not, I'm not the right person to answer it, because I have baked thousands of loaves of bread. So back when I first started baking bread, I probably would have said baking the perfect loaf of bread is the most difficult. It is finicky until you understand the science of it. It is annoying because you'll have a loaf that fails for no reason that you can identify. But ultimately, you learn. You figure it out. I've baked thousands of loaves of bread now in my lifetime. I have no problem throwing together a loaf of bread and having it turn out perfect every time. I do not even measure anymore. It just turns out, and that's just because of experience. It's not luck. It's just I've baked that many. I don't need to measure how much yeast to put in. I know how much. It's just experience. And if you had baked 1,000 loaves of bread, you would also find it easy at this point. It wasn't easy at the beginning. So, it was not easy at the beginning. It is easy now. What about catching the escaped mini horse? Shadowfax is darn easy to catch. I literally come out with a sleeve of his cookies. He likes these arrowroot digestive biscuits that you feed to babies. Shadowfax thinks they're the best thing on the planet. So I literally take the sleeve, I hold it up, and I go, Shadowfax, you want a cookie? And he will come running and like stop that far from me. He wants cookies. He loves cookies. You're going to give him a cookie. He's going to come. So catching Shadowfax is really, really easy. So which is easier, baking the perfect loaf of bread or catching a mini horse? Depends on how many loaves of bread you've baked in the past and your mini horse. If your mini horse is a runner, probably catching the mini horse because it could literally take you days. If your horse is Shadowfax, you want a cookie? You'll have him in a heartbeat. He loves cookies. So I'm not the right person to answer that question, but it's a fun question to talk about. Okay, next question on my list. What is my favorite animal on the farm? That is not fair. Okay? That's not fair. Unfair question. That's not right. So that is a really hard thing for me to decide. And I guess the way to approach the question is if you had to sell all but one, who would you keep? And I'm real torn between Shadowfax the mini horse and Tequila the Great Pyrenees. I don't think I could give either of them up. I don't think I could give anybody up. You're not taking vodka. Let's be honest. I love vodka. I love Gemini, my rabbit. I love each and every cat. I love all of them. So giving any of them up is unfathomable. I'm just not going to. But if I had to keep only two, it would be those two. If you made me pick between Shadowfax and Tequila, I'm not sure I could. I adore them. Life would be incomplete without them. So that's not a good question, though. Oh, there's a good question. How many cats do you have on Andersen Acres? Good question. So we have two house cats. We have Magic, who is 20 years old, and we're not really, he's like entering his pet cemetery phase where he doesn't look great, but he's not in any pain. So, he's okay for now. He's not hurting, but he looks pretty grim. So we have him, and we have Pippin in the house, who is our dilute calico. How old is Pippin? 6, I guess. Pippin is about 6. And she's fantastic. We love Pippin. So she's in the house most of the time. There goes the rabbit that has escaped. Trunk. I don't care. I'm not going to go chase her. She's just, over there doing her thing. Running back over to the barn. She's a barn bunny now. She lives in the barn. Just dealing with it. Back to how many cats. So we got the 2 in the house. For barn cats, we have Damien, who you hardly ever see. Okay? It is... Probably if you go back to not last year, but the year before, you'll see a bunch of videos of him. But he's older now, and he doesn't really come up very often. You'll see him sometimes like stalking the edges of the trees, and he's a really good hunter. So we don't see him a ton. But we have Damien, and we have Gwen, who is going to have a litter of kittens for us, and I'm probably keeping them all. I love kittens. So we have Gwen, we have Damon and Gwen, and then the other barn cats that we have 4 others. We have DK, who is our cream-colored male. Gwen is black and white, by the way. So DK is our cream-colored male. And then we have Jake, who looks like her daddy. She's gray and white, and her daddy is Damien. So we have 2 gray and whites. We have Damien and his daughter, Jake. And then we have Gwen's daughter, Bowser, who you saw if you have been watching since the beginning. We had Bowser, who is our tortoiseshell. And then we also have Gwen's other daughter. I have a thing for Gwen's daughters. I have a hard time giving them up. They're the sweetest kittens. We have another daughter of Gwen's, and that's Wildfire, and she is our standard calico, and she's got long hair, which is interesting. Because none of our other cats have long hair, but she has long hair. So we have 8 total cats. We live in a really high rodent population area. Like we have a lot of rats, a lot of mice. So yes, we actually need that many. We have the 2 in the house to keep the house free and clear of mice, because we have a lot of mice in this area. And then we have these 6 outside to kind of keep the rodents away from the hay and away from the feed. I don't want mice in my feed. Nobody does. I don't want mice in the hay. It's not, they can pass diseases through their urine and feces onto the hay, and that can get to horses and stuff. And we don't want to take the risk. So yeah, we have cats. All right, next question. This is a good one. What chicken breed wouldn't you have again? Okay, so this is going to be our last question because I do actually have to wrap up. I've been going for like 40 minutes now, so I do have to wrap up because I have somewhere to be. So this is going to be the last question. This question is, what chicken breed wouldn't you have again? I've loved most of them. So we've had things like Swarthonas, love them. We've had things like Leghorns, love them. We have Silkies right now, love them too. And all of our layer breeds are fantastic. We've had Sussexes. They're adorable. We're going to get Sussexes again, I think, because I kind of miss them. But what wouldn't I have again? A few years ago, quite a few years ago, this is not recent, I had opal leg bars. And I thought they were a really good idea at the time because, you know, they lay the blue eggs and they're fantastic, right? I really did not like them. They had a funny face. I didn't like the way they looked, and they were annoying. And I can't even really describe why they were so annoying, but they were more annoying than most of the other chicken breeds we have had. So the Leghorns weren't annoying. The Leghorns were flighty a little bit, sure, because Leghorns are, but the leg bars were actually annoying. So if I were going to not have one breed of chicken again, probably it would be the leg bars. So the answer to the what breed of chicken would you never have again? Leg bars. Maybe I would add Rhode Island Reds to that. I don't like Rhode Island Reds because they're kind of bullies. They can be a little bit mean, and we have Silkies, and our Silkies are very small. So put them with a breed that tends to be a bully, and they could get hurt. And we like to free range everyone together. I don't want to have to segregate everybody into their own pens and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think that I wouldn't have leg bars again, and I would probably steer clear of the Rhode Island Reds just because one was annoying and one is a little too aggressive for our flock just because we have the Silkies and they are sweet little gems. Anyway, that is all the questions I have time for today. Next week, we are going to live stream, and I'm going to be live streaming from the kitchen. I am going to be baking or cooking something and doing a Q&A on stuff in the kitchen. I'm probably going to be baking bread because bread is my favorite thing to make. I'm pretty good at it, and we eat a lot of bread. I'm baking bread most days, so I might as well do it on camera and answer some baking and cooking questions. So if you have baking and cooking questions, you can either tune into the live stream and drop comments below, or you can give me questions beforehand, either on YouTube in any one of my videos. I do see the comments even if I don't reply. Or you can find me on Facebook and send me a message over there. Anyway, that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. We'll see you tomorrow.